It's hard to miss the media's obsession with vampires is running rampant, not the least of which is the one-two punch in theaters from the Twilight saga. Kimberly Powers was intrigued with the attraction of teenage girls to this form of entertainment and what fuels the frenzy. She's written this timely book, Escaping the Vampire, Desperate for the Immortal Hero. It's where she sheds some light on just what young girls are looking for, and maybe more importantly, just who is the only one who's the answer. Kimberly, welcome to Full Circle.
Thank you so much. It's
so good to have you.
Be here.
Now, you travel extensively. You meet young girls everywhere you go. Yes. What is the deal with vampires?
Isn't it crazy, the way that it's just kind of taken root? I heard that vampires are the new rock stars, the ones that your parents don't want you to date, and I love that. I thought, that's so true. I mean, this bad boy, good girl thing has been here forever, and it's almost the attraction that pulls these girls to this phenomenon, and you think, why? You know, they're supposed to be evil, you know?
Yeah. Well, I have to admit, you know, I had not seen any of the vampire movies, but this week in reading your book, I was intrigued, so I went out and I rented Twilight, the first movie, and I watched it, and I can actually see the attraction from a teenage girl's point of view, because the main character in the movie doesn't really have an emotional connection with her father. Her mother is not on the scene, and she is looking for acceptance and a protector, really, out in the cold, cruel world, and that's where Edward, the vampire, kind of comes in.
Right. It's been amazing because as I speak to girls, I will be sharing with them about Christ and about the love that he has for them, and suddenly I will mention, you know, hey, what about Edward Cullen? And the room goes crazy. I mean, you know, I've been talking about Christ, and they're, and they love the Lord, they may love him, but you talk about Edward Cullen and they have seen him on the big screen, you know?
But Kimberly, come on, I've watched Twilight and New Moon.
Right.
And I can say, you know, when you look at Edward, I mean, even my heart's like, ooh, good looking, protector, honors her, and is self-controlled to say, I'm not going to, you know, get sex from you. I'm going to love you even when I desire you. He is gentle, he sees her, he knows her deepest. I mean, all of those things.
Opens the door.
Yeah, but I mean, all of those things. And like, you know, puts his arm out when the truck comes towards to get her and physically protects her. So every girl and even woman would be like, oh, Edward is what I want. Edward is what I'm looking for.
In a backwards kind of way, he offers a safe kind of love
and security
to teenage girls.
That's interesting because it is a very backwards kind of way. We don't want to say to the girls, Edward Cullen is not someone you want to consider and look at, because they are. They're looking at him and they're saying, well, look, let me give you a list of all the things I see in him. So yeah, it is kind of an interesting thing that you're looking at them and you're questioning and you're saying, hey, you know, what do you like about him? Tell me more about him. And then they're beginning to chat and share, and then you begin to see a look into their heart. And that's what's been so intriguing for us.
And I love how you did that, because the vampire thing, I think a lot of parents have a hard time understanding, because in their generation, in my generation, vampires were like in horror movies. So that's how we understand it. So when your child is, you know, like in love with a vampire, you're thinking, what is wrong? And I loved how you just looked past that and you said, what is at the core of this, and what is drawing women and girls to fall in love with this guy or love this ideal of a man?
I know, and you know, in the book I shared that story about the email that I received from a girl who was sharing, you know, I am so caught up in these characters. And you know, I was questioning that and saying to her, well, tell me more. And she said, I don't want to tell anyone. I am obsessed with this. And you think, wow, you know, it seems a bit backward, but the girls are drawn into this love story. And that's what truly it is.
You know, Romeo and Juliet. I love that phrase. Romeo and Juliet plus fangs.
Oh, yeah.
And just last night on the TV menu, Bram Stoker's Dracula, which is taking us into the zone, and Vampire Diaries. I mean, it's not just Twilight. This has been coming.
Absolutely.
But it's because it's epic. It's like we want to be part of a bigger story than my humdrum, boring life.
That's right.
Where I'm not seen, where people make fun of me, where I'm not beautiful, I'm not good enough. So I want to be part of this epic story of someone pursuing me, because in and of itself, I am an amazing woman. And I think that's at the core of most women.
Yes, they do. They have this longing to be loved, and I share that that's the core to what we see happening. They want to feel beautiful. They want to have that attention. So if they're getting attention from a guy or a vampire, you know, whatever the case may be, they're seeing that they're loved. And when you feel beautiful and accepted, then you feel loved, and then they feel settled and a confidence. You know, they think all will follow. But what happens is that is not rock. That's not what's going to carry them.
And the darkness breaks the boredom.
Yes.
For those who are living life without adventure.
Yes.
There's something appealing about forbidden love, in a sense.
Absolutely.
And I like the way that you took it and you went to the heart of a girl, though, because I don't think it's just in movies or it's just about vampires. I mean, I grew up as a little girl, too, just always waiting for that man to come and take me away and fulfill me, and someone was going to love me and see me, and I was going to be special, and you're just waiting for that growing up. But, you know, the truth is, a man can never fulfill all those things in you, and anybody who's looking for that will be disappointed, no matter how great the guy is.
Yes.
There's just no guy good enough, you
That's
know?
so true.
And so you're pointing young girls to the thing that really can fulfill them.
Yes, yes, and that came so quickly with the girls. As we would start to share, I would just come alongside of them in conversation, and now through the book, to just say, look, let's talk together. Let's see where you're at. What's drawing you in? And let's talk about you. Who is that hero for you? And that's where their faces just kind of went glazed over, and they thought, oh, where's my Edward? And they started saying, you know, the guys aren't perfect out there, and you know, Edward's not really perfect. And they started sharing how in the movie, in the book series, there were spots where he was trying to be for her, trying to fulfill her, trying to give to her, but literally wasn't able to. And then she said, you know, for instance, one girl had said, you know, at the end of the series, after I read it, I was completely depressed. And I thought, wow, because she was looking for that fulfillment, and she was thinking, I will find it, you know, in reading these characters and kind of living their lot through them in their lives, and she wasn't fulfilled.
But
Kim, I love the way.
I was just going to say just a quick thing. So here's my thing, because your book is pretty fantastic as far as giving the truths of who God is and what He brings to our lives. But you know, as a young girl, for me, I'm very tangible. So when people say it's God, I go, well, that's great, but He's not actually physically beside me. I need somebody to go to the movies with, or go to Mickey D's, and you know, I need somebody to like be with me in companionship. Right. So how do you take this? So you instill that God is a hero. Guys, like what Cheryl's saying, aren't going to fulfill those greatest needs. Right. God will. And then you go, okay, God, well, you know, you're not going to be ringing my doorbell to take me on a date to the movies. Right. So how do you kind of bridge that with a girl who's saying, I get it, I kind of get it, but He's not really there, or is He?
Right, and I think that's my opportunity to really come alongside and say, okay, where is He? Let's talk about who He is. And we have an opportunity to do that. You know, they've heard of God and Jesus, and they think of the big guy upstairs, and they think of, you know, the guy that's telling me not to do this, and, you know, kind of looking at Him as though they were looking at their parent, which is true in many cases. But sometimes there's hurt. A lot of times there's hurt, especially with fathers. And it's a chance to say, hey, let me introduce you to the God who sees, who knows you, who is like that presence with you. You know, He is with you. He's with you when you go into the bathroom, when you go to your locker, when you're tired and you're depressed and you're laying on the floor because your boyfriend broke up with you. And they start to see the reality that He is present and He is in our todays, you know. So it's an opportunity to express His love and then come along and just pray over them and ask the Holy Spirit to really just captivate their attention and their heart, and He does it. It's amazing.